After the 4th generation of Pokemon disappointed him so much, my brother tossed me all of his Pokemon stuff in disgust. I received hundreds of cards to add to my collection, the Blastoise plush he won at King's Island 9 years ago, and the Diamond game that completely swept away his love for the game and all things associated with it. That chapter of his life came to a sad close, while mine just gained something to continue on. Admittedly, the games that had come out for the DS disappointed me as well. There was just something about it all that made the magic of the games normally had fade away a little. As a person who grew up with the originals, Generation 4 simply wasn't my Pokemon anymore. Regardless, I wasn't going to turn my back on something that accompanied through my childhood simply because the game disappointed me a little. In fact, I wanted Diamond. Dialga was 100 times better looking than Palkia, and I rather enjoyed the thought of finally getting to be the one to catch it this time around, instead of having to hack one or trade for it. Before I continue, I must tell you that this doesn't involve Dialga at all. I just like it and originally wanted Diamond, but had to settle for Pearl because my brother got it first. This does start off with the legendary Pokemon, however, though I'm certain if I had used any other, the outcome would have been the same. This happening seemed to be meant for me, otherwise it probably wouldn't have happened at all, which I would have been completely fine with. I started up his save game just to see what he had. His save information said that he had all the Pokemon in his Pokédex, even the ones that had yet to be released through wireless events, which reminded me that he really enjoyed using action replay codes to enhance his gaming experience. That was probably the only thing that caused him to keep the game as long as he did, but even cheating gets old after a while. After starting his game, I checked his party. He had 6 shiny, level 100 Rayquazas. Like all the other Pokemon he owned, he caught them using the lengthy Encounter Any Pokemon code, where you had to discard heart scales to indicate which Pokemon you wanted to catch at level 100. While the Pokemon encountered with this code were about as weak as if you'd given them a large number of rare candies, I still recall losing to these 6 frequently. I'd used this code myself throughout my first playthrough of Pearl, and I traded these across the net to increase my chances of winning at the lottery. Or at least that's what I did before a friend scolded me, and I was more or less forced to start over, cheat-free. While he needed no Pokemon to complete his Pokédex, and he didn't need to win any extra items, trading was always a fun experience for me, just to see where they came from. So, I went to Jubilife City to the Global Trading Center, to see what I could get for one of these Rayquazas. I know I could have traded anything, but I secretly held a grudge against these 6 for beating me so badly all those times. Once in the trading network, I offered one up for a Bronzong that I had picked at random out of the first list. Of course, I couldn't choose a gender, but I chose the required level to be 100, just to make it more or less an even trade. After that, I left for a little while. After doing nothing of particular interest for about 6 hours, I came back to see if I had any takers for the trade. I immediately got excited when the trade sequence started up. I know it was just a simple Bronzong, but still, I like this process a great deal. You could send me a Magikarp and I'll get excited for a little bit. You know how the process goes. I won't bother explaining the actions on screen to you. Long story short, I received a shiny Bronzong named Hellbell. I was shocked to get a shiny in return. I never got a shiny when I traded in Pearl. But the name was unsettling to me. Being a slightly religious person, I'm not comfortable speaking about anything pertaining to hell or anything like that. Even writing this makes me feel like I'm provoking a similar event to happen again. Let's just hope this functions as a learning experience for you, and not something else for me. After leaving, I checked its stats. Everything was set at 666. Its old trainer was named Beazle, which again, both points slip into my sensitive area. And it was caught at Lost Tower, but contained in a Cherish Ball. Clearly, it was hacked, but it's what I get for offering up a hack first. The stats and other information of the Pokemon disturbed me though, only for the fact that I didn't like its name or information. But I assumed it was fine otherwise. Regardless, I didn't want it, so I tried offering it up for trade again. This would be where I'd gladly accept a Magikarp, but each time I tried to put it into the GTS, the game informed me that the Pokemon couldn't be offered in a trade. This had happened to me several times before, when I tried to trade hacked legendaries. I assume there's something in place that keeps people from truly getting ripped off, but I was able to trade that Rayquaza, and Beazle was able to trade me Hellbell this go around. I didn't know why it wouldn't allow me to offer it again. I still wanted to be rid of it, so obviously, the only other option I had was to release it. Before I went to the PC, however, I checked the item it was holding. The sender had attached mail to it, which was always fun, even though your choices for what to say are severely limited, and the letters always come out painfully cheesy. That's one of the things I don't like of the revamp of the mail system. I chose Hellbell and selected to read the mail, though the letter wasn't set up like it normally was in the game. It looked like it had actually been typed out like you used to be able to in Gold and Silver. This message was only 3 words long. Take me back. I wasn't quite sure what that meant. I certainly couldn't trade it again. Even if I could, there was no way I could make sure Hellbell got back to Beazle. So, I discarded the message and went to the PC to release it. I selected the deposit Pokemon option, and selected Hellbell for release. But each time the party sprite shrunk away, it immediately came back with a message saying something along the lines of, Hellbell doesn't want to leave you. Again, this happened before when I was clearing out my PC box in my second playthrough of Pearl. I went a little more room and decided to release a Shinx that I'd caught early on in the game, but it kept coming back. I thought it was cute and then made the Shinx, and now Luxray, a permanent member of my team since it appeared to like me so much. But now, it was just annoying. When I checked Hellbell again, it was holding another mail item, which made no sense because I'd taken away the first one. I opened it and read a slightly longer message. I can't go back on my own. Take me back. Again, I took the item and tried to release it. Another failure. When I tried to simply deposit it, the game told me to remove the mail item from the Pokemon before depositing. I know I had. Twice. But upon checking it again, Hellbell had yet another mail item in its possession. Lost Tower. It was finally getting more specific, which I found oddly relieving, rather than feeling a little uneasy, as I probably should have been. At least I knew where it wanted to go. Maybe it'd leave my party after I took it there. I'd like to know why this Pokemon was making my game behave so strangely. The Pokemon was hacked, not the game itself. As far as I know, a decent hack doesn't affect the game, and a bad hack can make it crash. But this was doing neither. More like something in between. Eager to get rid of it, I left the GTS building and stepped out into Jubilife. I was too impatient to pick an actual flying type out the PC, so I just taught one of the Rayquazas the move Fly, and chose to use it. But when I picked Slacian Town on the map, the game informed me that I couldn't fly there. I know my brother had visited the city before. I don't know why I couldn't go there, but I didn't take the time to actually think about it. I just flew to Hearthome instead. I didn't waste time in Hearthome. I simply left to travel through Route 209 to get to the Lost Tower and hopefully rid myself of this strange Pokemon somehow by taking it where it wanted to go. I immediately noticed the lack of people on the route. Granted, I don't remember who was there to battle and things of that sort, but I know that there were at least a few there. The area was completely vacant. Well, not completely. There was one person quickly pacing back and forth where I believe an athlete once ran that I didn't quite recognize. The sprite of a white-haired old man. Curious, I spoke to him, which was where it began to get a little weird for me. He didn't say anything that made sense, but babbled over and over for an annoyingly long amount of time, much like when you speak to a specific cyclist on the bike trail in Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald. You know, the one who knows where you got your bike because its name is all over it. He repeated ring the bell over and over. That meant nothing to me. I didn't bother speaking to him again. I just continued on to the tower. Once inside, I tried to go up the stairs, but something prevented me from moving for a moment. I thought all the hacked Pokemon had finally made my game screw up, but that wasn't the case. After a moment of complete silence, the sound of a deep, brazen bell began to slowly toll. If you're curious how that exactly sounded, start up your Heart Gold Soul Silver game. That bell. That's the noise. After about 4 rings, the tombstone in the center of the room cracked and shattered like someone had used rock smash on it. Beneath the tombstone was a hole. Since it wasn't allowing me to go up the stairs, I walked over and fell through it. When I landed, I fell on a platform much like the one you'd find Arceus on in the Hall of Origin. Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. We've all hacked that event. Only, it was much darker. Where the transparent platform was white and glowing for Arceus, this one was more of a black and red. It just seemed evil rather than the holy vibe you get from the Hall of Origin. Coming from the platform was a set of wide stairs that looked as if they were made of black marble rather than white. There was no way to back up. I couldn't fly, no diggers, and I was escape rope poor. So, I took the stairs, and the bell, which I now assume was Hell Bell considering that Bronzong is indeed a sort of bell, continued to ring slowly. By now, I was feeling incredibly uneasy, wouldn't you? But I continued down the stairs. As I went further, it began to get foggy and a little darker. When I reached the bottom, I was met with large pools of magma on either side. It was beginning to look more like the cave in which you encounter Groudon in Ruby, Sapphire and Emerald, with better graphics of course. The path continued in a straight line for about 40 steps, before hanging right for another 40 and finally going up. The final path was long. Magma still bubbled at the side, and with each step I took, the ringing of the bell began to go faster. At least, as fast as a large bell was allowed to ring, which was still just an ominous slow tolling. Though, with each ring, I couldn't help but repeat what the old man had said earlier. Ring the bell. Finally, I reached the end of the pathway, which was just a small 4x4 platform, and the bell stopped ringing. I wondered what was supposed to happen here. There was nothing to do. No way to release Hellbell, and no way to get out. I received my answer in the form of a disembodied voice. A dialogue box popped up and said, "Oh, you've returned Hellbell to me. I really appreciate it." He faded into view one space ahead of my sprite. It was just a simple gentleman sprite, and the party sprite of Hellbell came out of me and stood in the space between us facing him. The game informed me that I handed over Hellbell. Next, a thing popped up on the touchscreen. It looked like the part of the trainer card where you sign your name. Again, the voice spoke. "Would you mind telling me your name, please, so that I may thank you properly?" Now, this confused me. Well, everything that was happening confused me, but this really threw me for a loop. First, the game should know the character name programmed into it from the start. And, as far as I know, it can't actually recognize handwriting. Regardless, I began writing my brother's character name, which was Dust. I made the first stroke. It was in black ink, just like normal, and made a D, but the voice stopped me. No, your real name please. I can't thank you with a false name, you know." My heart felt like it stopped for a second, and it sunk right into my stomach before violently bounding back up into my chest. How the hell did the game know that I wasn't signing my real name? "Your real name, please." Again, I began writing. Why was I listening to this? Watching it all play out when I could just easily turn it off or start a completely new game? I don't know. The thought simply didn't cross my mind at the time. I don't think it was allowed to. The ink in which I was now writing was a bright red colour, but I still wrote my full name, first and last in the space that was provided. After I was finished, the man spoke again. "Good. Now blow, please. We don't want that ink to smudge." I blew into the mic, and the ink turned from a bright to a deep red. I was unable to make changes after that. Afterward, the screen disappeared and the man spoke again. "Thank you, miss. You'll be happy to know that you now belong to me." The bell tolled twice more as my sprite, currently male, turned to face me and shifted to the female sprite, brown hair, wearing all black, just like I was at the moment. Hellbell moved forward, overlapping my sprite, and a final dialogue box popped up. Hellbell used imprisonment. After that, my DS battery died. I was shaken, I'll admit it. But it just seemed like a twisted event brought about by some sort of secret within the game unlocked by a Pokemon. But now, I can't sleep. Food seems to turn to ash in my mouth, and no water can quench my thirst. And people and animals both act as if the shadow of death is passing them by when I'm near. I'm not my own anymore. I belong to that man. and Hellbell. I don't know what became of that Pokemon, but if I received it, then someone else is sure to do so. Use caution while using the trading system. Thanks for sticking around. I hope you enjoyed the story. We're at the end of this one, but there are plenty more you might not have heard yet. So here are some options: my entire Pokepasta playlist, or a story that YouTube thinks you'll like from me. With all that said, I hope you leave a like, maybe a comment, and if you want to hear more, subscribe with notifications to get the latest stories as soon as they're available.